dynamic in 2016 during the last transition to a Trump administration, where the committee saw slightly tighter policy, in part in expected anticipation of the fiscal policy stance that was seen evolving over the year. Some of it was a data mark-to-market exercise, and some of it was anticipation of fiscal. What's the split on this one? How much of this was accounting for inflation data that was coming in, and how much of it is expecting that there will be inflationary fiscal policy next year?
I'd say I'd point to 5 or 6 things, and let me start by saying that we think the economy is in a really good place, and we think policy is in a really good place. Let's remember that the economy is growing 2.5% this year, that inflation has come down by 50% from 5.6% to 2.6%. Headline inflation is 2.5% on a 12-month basis. We're actually in a really good starting place here. But since, so what's really driving the slower rate cut path? First thing is growth is stronger, right? The economy grew faster in the second half of 2024 so far than we had expected, and is expected to be above what our expectations in September next year as well. Unemployment is lower, and in the SEP you'll see that participants think that the downside risks are less and uncertainty is less. So that's more strength, right? Inflation is higher, as we talked about. Inflation's higher this year. It's also higher in the forecast next year. I'd also point out that we're closer to the neutral rate, which is another reason to be cautious about further moves. But then getting to your point, there's also there's uncertainty. Uncertainty around inflation, I pointed out, is actually higher. It's also in the case of some people, the way I would say it is this: some people did take a very preliminary step and start to incorporate highly conditional estimates of economic effects of policies into their forecasts at this meeting, and said so in the meeting. Some people said they didn't do so, and some people didn't say whether they did or not. So we have people making a bunch of different approaches to that. But some did identify policy uncertainty as one of the reasons for their writing down more uncertainty around inflation. The point about uncertainty is it's kind of common sense thinking that when the path is uncertain, you go a little bit slower. It's not unlike driving on a foggy night or walking into a dark room full of furniture. You just slow down, and so that may have affected some of the people. But as I said, there's a range of approaches on the committee.